Back to Hot Takes and Deep Dives, and I am here with the author of Dining Out, First Dates, Defiant Nights, and Last Call Disco Fries at America's Gay Restaurants. I'm here with Erik Piepenburg. You've written for the LA Times, the New York Times. I mean, would you call this a memoir or a travelogue?
Yeah, this is my first book, and it is definitely a memoir. There's reportage, it's essay, it's first person, it's just pure journalism. I wouldn't say it's like a guidebook necessarily, but for people interested in visiting gay restaurants that are open, there's a ton of them in the book that are still open, and I really recommend checking out.
So the origin story behind the book, you wrote this piece in 2021 for The Times titled Still Here and Still Queer, The Gay Restaurant Endures. Now, the lore of this article is that you were dismayed by the closing of your beloved Chicago favorite restaurant, the Melrose, and you were just setting out to kind of report on that?
Yeah, when the Melrose closed in 2017, it was a real loss for me. And I think anyone who loves a restaurant, loves the people who work there, loves the food, I call it in the book a kind of a dispossession when a restaurant closes. And so that was kind of for me, the personal angle here was my beloved Melrose closed. But also I came out in the 90s and came of age in the 90s when gay restaurants were a dime a dozen in neighborhoods here in New York and Chicago and DC where I lived. I hadn't been seeing that really so much anymore. And I thought, well, what's up with gay restaurants? Where have they gone? What do they look like today? And I think that was really the impetus to sort of explore that and say, yeah, I need to answer that question. And not just now, but also 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. Where were people eating then? And how has gay dining changed since then?
Now, the obvious question to lay out here is, what is a gay restaurant? And I love how you clearly outline in the book a gay restaurant's mission, and how you view one is that it should be to bring queer people together, not necessarily for food, but around it, where you can find other gay people around food. Not necessarily around drinking and drugs and loud music.
For me, it's kind of the flip. What makes gay restaurants special is that you can have a quiet conversation with your friends, or you can cry over a breakup, and you don't want to be that queen at the bar who's crying. That's just messy. But at a gay restaurant, you could cry, you could have an intimate conversation, you can hear one another. The music isn't loud like at gay bars, and I think that's one of the things that, for me at least, I love going to a gay bar now and then. My clubbing days are kind of over, but I still go to gay restaurants because you can hear one another and you can laugh and you can support one another in ways that you just can't at really many other gay spaces that we have. It also, I should say, when I say gay, that's sort of my Gen X way of saying like queer, the LGBTQ community.
You say something really funny in the book. If there's one revelation I have after several years of thinking about, writing about, and dining out at gay restaurants, it's this: diners are gay.
Yes, that is so true. I'm a diner gay. I grew up going to diners.
Me too. Yeah, same. Suburbs.
Ohio has some great ones. New Jersey actually has a great diner scene. LA does too. And for me, one of the great things about diners is that they're generally 24 hours and they'll mostly leave you alone.
You could sit there for hours, theoretically.
You could sit there for hours and just keep getting coffee as long as you don't, cause a scene and you pay your bill. You can sit there for a long time. And for me, some of my favorite memories are diners that were not that far from the clubs. It's interesting. I would ask people that I met in many interviews, tell me about your favorite gay restaurant memory. And they would say, gay restaurant. They didn't know what that means. And then I would ask them, well, where did you go after the clubs or the bars closed? And almost to a person, they would say, oh, well, we all went to this diner down the street and we had pancakes and we were a little tipsy and we, flirted with everyone. And that restaurant pretty much was always a diner. And so when I sort of reminded people of where you went after the clubs closed, these diner memories just kept flooding back. It's fascinating.
But also, if you think about TV throughout history, like they all kind of congregate around a diner,
That's
whether
true.
it's Seinfeld, the diner in Seinfeld, or Queer as Folk.
Yeah.
Debbie's working at the diner.
That's exactly right.
So
yep.
I think, but yes, I completely agree. But I don't know if it's specific to gay. I just think it's like, it's comfort. It's not expensive. It's not fussy. It's all night. You can go in any time. And something you said before about how you can like cry and like be emotional.
Yeah.
Something that I love about my experience going to gay restaurants is I love people watching and like overhearing conversations. And it's one of the few places where you can actually hear conversations about other gay life in real life. Strangers you don't know, getting a window into their personal lives just because you're overhearing. There is a sense of belonging.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And for some people, maybe especially elders, I love that notion of they are places where you can eavesdrop and understand other gay people in ways that you really just can't anywhere else. I love that.
I want to run down a bit of a bullet list of these are places in the book that that either I had never heard of because they're far remote places from where I live, or they're places that mean something to me or to my friends.
Let's do it.
Okay, so your beloved, the Melrose,
yes,
in Chicago,
yes,
in Boys Town. Take me back. You're living in Chicago.
Yes.
What neighborhood were you living in?
I was living in Boys Town, as we called Lakeview neighborhood, the Lakeview neighborhood back in the 90s when I lived in Chicago for a total of about 7 years. And Boys Town was just the gay neighborhood. And I lived a couple blocks from the Melrose, and it was a 24-hour diner, 500 things in the menu, vinyl booths, the whole works. And it just meant a lot to me because back then I had my first journalism job working the 4 to midnight shift. And after midnight, I would go to the Melrose and most of the time sit by myself and just cruise boys and watch the boys go by and flirt or read a book. And it was just the kind of place where it was pretty much gay all day, except when Cubs games were happening, it turned very straight because Wrigley Field is not that far. Yeah. But it's in the gay neighborhood. And I think like a lot of diners, it was there before it became a gay neighborhood, stayed.
And they inherit the clientele.
Yes, they did. Other places can push back against that, and it doesn't go well for them. But if you embrace the community that is now growing around you, which the Melrose did, I think it could go really well for you.
What's an example of a place that pushed back and failed?
Yeah, there was a couple restaurants, a couple diners specifically here in New York. I'm blanking on the name of it. It was over by the piers that I wouldn't say was hostile towards the gay community, but definitely was not the kind of place that sort of celebrated like pride or that kind of thing. And it hung on there, but it didn't attract gays in the way that it did back in the 60s and 70s, weirdly, because management sort of didn't care. As the gay civil rights movement sort of blossomed, that's when it sort of turned gay unfriendly. And once you've lost the gays,
you're fucked.
it's over. Yeah.
Let's bring Julius's into the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Julius's. 2 places I would say that I will be the first 2 places off my lips is like or a suggestion. Someone's like, oh, where should we meet? Typically, it's either Julius's or Cafeteria.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
great.
to me, Cafeteria is a gay restaurant.
Is it still?
Although you say in the book it's not, and that stuns me.
Not like it was. Like when I first moved to New York in 1989 and sort of, Cafeteria was the place to go, certainly in the 90s after going clubbing. The last time I was there, it did not feel gay to me at all. And this was like a lunch, like a weekday lunch. If I had gone there 3 a.m., I think it's still open 24 hours. Maybe it'd be different. Mm-hmm. But I remember thinking this is not the Cafeteria that I knew in the 90s, but maybe that was just the time that I was there, which actually is a really good point. One of the things that sets gay restaurants apart is that they can be gay late at night, and then in the morning, they can be straight as any place. Florent is a perfect example of that. Florent during the day was not that gay. Come back at 3 a.m. after Mars and the Meatpacking District clubs let out, it was super, super gay. So if you went to Cafeteria and it felt gay,
I'm at Cafeteria like at least once a week.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you like it?
I love it because I love like breakfast food and they do breakfast all day. And I love it because it's gay.
Yeah. Okay.
Because like the staff and the clientele, it really does read gay to me.
Yeah.
And even on their menus, like they have Jose Extravaganzas on the menu, and like people from Queer Eye, and DJ Lena Bradford has a residency every Friday night. She spins in. You can sit and have dinner with her, and then she's DJing on every Friday night. I mean, this is a gay. If this isn't a gay restaurant, I don't know what is.
Right. That's an interesting. Maybe I just went at the wrong time, but you actually bring up a good point that I wanted to address from before, which was in my book. I was far more interested in defining a gay restaurant as who's eating there. I wasn't concerned about gay chef or gay servers or waiters or gay owners. I was less concerned about that. And to me, my definition of a gay restaurant is when I walk in the door and I look around, are these my people?
Yeah, to me, it's definitely a mirror of Elmo, which is like right across the street.
Yeah.
And the same like menu. Like it's
basically.
Like the same.
Yeah, that's true. God bless them. They're still hanging in there. So
I can't believe the cafeteria is still in business.
I know.
I mean, thank God.
And Elmo too. I mean, God bless them. They're still like, that's been around for quite some time.
Wait, so you mentioned Florent before?
I did.
My favorite fun fact about Florent is that Showtime was going to do a scripted series about Florent starring Alan Cumming.
Correct.
You can still read the announcement. And I think it's in the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. The Hollywood Reporter, September 2015. This is just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Alan Cumming to star in Showtime dark comedy Florent. And it says Cumming will star in the project, which is centered on colorful New York restaurateur Florent how do you say his last name? Morier, who opened a restaurant in the meatpacking district in the 80s. The series would explore the ups and downs of the time, as well as the chaos surrounding an establishment that went on to become a go-to spot for everyone from the city's literati to the NYPD to the neighborhood hookers and hustlers to the burgeoning LGBT community. Also, a lot of celebrities.
A lot. Yes, all the time.
Why was there such a celebrity appeal at Florent?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand. We're talking about the meatpacking district back when actual meatpacking workers worked there and blood was flowing in the streets from all the carcasses. We're not talking the meatpacking district now. For those who don't remember those days, the meatpacking district was not somewhere where you really hung out unless you wanted to go to the clubs or the gay sex clubs or sex workers worked there. I mean, I went there. There was a club called Mars in the neighborhood. And yeah, that was a place where you'd go and then you'd take a cab and you would leave until Florent opened. The address is 69 Gainsborough Street. And, it was the kind of place where at first it attracted club kids, but then very quickly word got out that this was kind of like the hot new downtown kind of place in this neighborhood, the meatpacking district.
It must have been, there must have been a clipping in some, like the Village Voice or something, that maybe one celebrity was spotted and that's what set it off.
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember this is back in the pre-digital age. So, the local gay press certainly covered it, word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
There were the free weeklies like HX just sort of said, hey, the place to see and be seen is Florent. And once the gays got in there, eventually it became straighter and more sort of celebrity kind of place, which is a trend that's still happening today. But Florent had a very, very strong, healthy, raucous life before Florent decided to close it. It really is one of those very special restaurants that I'm just not sure if you could have anymore.
And it was one of the places where, at the height of the AIDS epidemic, they would display the owner's T-cell counts. Like they weren't shy about acknowledging AIDS and that you could not catch HIV from eating with somebody at a restaurant or sharing a bathroom with somebody. Yeah,
Florent very famously just posted his T-cell counts on that sort of the board that had the menu and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't say my T-cell count is. They were just numbers. But people who knew exactly what that meant. And I was very honored to have interviewed Florent in person for this book. And, he said that it changed people's lives to just be able to go into this restaurant, see his numbers, which in some cases were very low and not that good and higher. And they were good. And just sort of said, oh, he's going through the same thing that I am. My numbers that I got today were terrible. So are his. You know what? We're here sort of sharing that information. He's sharing that information with me. I don't feel so unseen. And not a lot of restaurants sort of did that during the worst years of AIDS.
Why did Florent close?
I got the sense from Florent that he was just kind of done with it, that he wanted to move on and do something else. He actually eventually moved out to Brooklyn and has sort of been enjoying the sort of Bushwick sort of scene recently. He wants to go where young people are doing crazy, weird things.
Does he own anything? Has he owned anything since Florent?
Not that I'm aware of. No, not a restaurant. No, he's very engaged with sort of like queer Bushwick type stuff, but no, he hasn't owned a restaurant. I don't think he wants to. I think he sort of looks back and says, I did that. It was so much fun. I had a blast, but that's then. And the Meatpacking District is unrecognizable these days from the days when Florent started. So I think he's like, you know what? I'm going to go do something else.
Let's return to Julius.
Yes,
we almost skated. We almost skated over it, and we cannot. Talk to me about the significance of the Sippin' and the Mattachine Society and everything that took place, and why it is a historic landmark today.
One of the things that I wanted to make clear in my book was that, contrary to some people who think this, the Stonewall riots did not start the gay civil rights movement. I actually think that's very offensive when I hear people say that Stonewall was the first brick. That's just nonsense. And I wanted to make sure that in the book we realize that gay restaurants have been around pre-Stonewall for decades. And
it seems like they've been around. Again, we're not skipping over Julius, but I do want to state for the record, it seems like the first gay restaurant was in the 1800s.
I make that case at Pfaff's, it was called, on the Bowery, and Walt Whitman went there. I make the case if Walt Whitman and other bohemians and artists went there back in the late 19th century, the space was queered. Even though they wouldn't have said that word at the time, there were no pride flags at the time, but when you have that kind of community there is a queering of that space, just like they did at Automats in the 1930s. Queer people have been queering restaurants for a very, very long time. And I hope I make that point very clear in the book that gay restaurants are in no way new. But Julius was an important one because pre-Stonewall, the sip-in that happened there in 1996 was planned by the Mattachine Society, one of the early, very pioneering gay civil rights organizations here in New York, and they purposefully went out to a Ukrainian restaurant, a Howard Johnson's, and sort of asked to be served as homosexuals, and with the intent to be refused because that was against the law. Howard Johnson's actually served them, so that didn't work. I think the Ukrainian restaurant was closed, so they went to Julius, where they knew that it would be illegal for them to serve homosexuals. That happened. They were not served after saying we are homosexuals, and that started a real change in pre-Stonewall New York in how bars and restaurants served gay people. I think it's, in some ways, it is just as impactful as some of the things that happened during the Stonewall years, in that it made people realize that just being gay was no reason to not serve you. As long as you paid your tab and didn't, and minded your own business, why should you not be served? And I think that the Julius Sip-In, and again, I should say Julius is mostly a bar, but they have this delicious little grill there. I'm a vegetarian. I get a grilled cheese and I get some fries. There is a little bar, a little grill in Julius, and it's really in that sense, it's a pioneering bar-restaurant combination.
Well, it can feel like a diner.
Totally.
A diner with like the bar in the front, which is why I like it. There
Yes.
is this comfortability factor to it, where someplace like Cubbyhole, that is completely absent.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
you can actually sit and converse with somebody, where you
Yeah.
really can't unless it's the middle of the day,
Right.
at a place like Cubbyhole.
Right. That's true. And I think the last time I was at Julius, they even serve you in like those red baskets with gingham paper.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's a diner, and it's an affordable grilled cheese made to order. I mean, like, it's just a really special place. And it's one of the few gay bar restaurants in New York. That is much more prevalent in other parts of the country. There aren't a lot of gay bars that serve food in New York, which I think is a shame. I wish more did.
Now, I want to say how I was introduced to you was that we have a mutual friend, Jack Bartholay, and he's the one who turned me on to your book. And I was saying, Jack is a performer. He's a cabaret star. And we went to his show at Pangaea this winter. And what I wanted to say to you was I was like, actually, let's say it for the mic, because I want to make a case. To me, Pangaea is a gay restaurant. There's a cabaret room in the back. If there's a cabaret room in the back of a restaurant, it's gay.
I think that's pretty safe to say. If Jack is there performing, that's a gay restaurant.
I mean, there's literally
I adore Jack. Yes.
I mean, it's Pangaea's not, I don't think it's referenced in the book.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
And yet this is a gay restaurant.
Yeah, I think that
A glaring omission in the East Village.
If there's a second book, I would absolutely love to include it. Yeah, I mean, I have a whole chapter on entertainment in my book on, restaurants that have had drag shows and cabaret performers, and Pangaea is certainly one of them. Yes, if you're going to do a Broadway show tune cabaret and serve a meal, that's a pretty gay restaurant too.
And it's not a cabaret. It's not. We would never say Pangaea is the Green Room 42 or 54 Below or Joe's Pub.
Right.
It is primarily a restaurant. Some people may not even know there's a little tiny room in the back
That's
where
true.
you can perform.
Yeah.
It's not really advertised as a theater space in any way.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what's great about gay restaurants is they can be
Yeah.
bistros, they can be cabarets, they can be bars, they can be bathhouses, they can be upscale, and they can be downscale.
Wait, can we talk? This was actually the most shocking revelation for me in this book was that there's food served at bathhouses.
Yes, food has been served.
This is very confusing to me.
Food has been served at gay bathhouses for decades, for a very, very long time. There's a wonderful story in the book about a friend of mine, actually, who would go to the St. Mark's Baths, check in on Friday, leave Sunday, maybe Monday morning, and they served food. There were everything from vending machines to a full sit-down dinner to
Wait, hold
just
on a
buffets.
second. Wait, hold on. He checked. Hold on a second. But there's no. It's not a hotel.
It's not a hotel, but they have rooms, so you could certainly sleep there. You could get your own cabana room, and you could sleep there, and you could get up, and then you could have sex, and then you could watch a movie, and then you could see Bette Midler, and then you could have dinner, and then you could go back to sleep and have sex and disco dance. I mean, it was the kind of thing.
How
where
could you watch it? Was there a theater inside?
The bigger ones, I think it was the Continental Baths.
They had a screening room?
Like an actual screening room. They had a performance space. There are wonderful photos
Wow.
of Bette Midler sort of singing to Men in Towels.
This, of course, I know.
All of that
Yes.
stuff. But yeah, bathhouses were very much more part of the culture than they were now. And it was the kind of space where you could spend days there. Of course, having sex, but
I don't know
also
why I
being
find this
social.
so funny.
Yeah?
Is it absurd that I find it funny?
No, I think gay bathhouse culture is not something that I think many people know about. Certainly not in terms of food. So no, I'm
Yes.
not surprised that you find that at all. I'm not surprised.
What type of food are we having at a place that is primarily known for sex? I don't understand. Like sex and food?
Yeah. That's a great.
Like, don't we want to be eating very light?
Right. That's true. There's a wonderful section in my book about Flex, which is a bathhouse in Cleveland, my hometown, that every Sunday serves a homemade meal. Chef Rick serves a homemade meal. When I was there, it was ravioli and some warm rolls and meatballs if you wanted them. And about 20 men or so gathered and throughout the afternoon and just in their towels and having Rick's ravioli. And at other times, on every holiday, actually, they have a full buffet where you could have turkey dinner for Thanksgiving, ham for
that's
Easter.
cute. Okay.
It's definitely cute. And yes, if you're depending on what kind of sex you want to have, you don't want to have like sloppy joes necessarily before you.
Okay. Oh my God.
You don't want to have that, but depending on what you're looking for, yeah, you can have a meal at a bathhouse. That's always sort of been there.
Wait, another place. Speaking of, okay, let me get this back on track.
Sorry.
No, I'm actually very fascinated by this. Okay, similar to Pangaea, I'm not sure if it's referenced in the book. I couldn't find it. West Bank Cafe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is a gay restaurant for sure, part of
Correct.
the Laurie Beachman Theater. Do you state that in the book as a gay restaurant?
That's not in the book. There are so many restaurants that I wish I could have
Second
included.
glaring omission.
Yeah, no. I mean, I would love to write about the West
And this
Bank,
book is
'cause it has-
extensive, by the way.
I know, that's
Yeah.
the thing. I almost think there have been more gay restaurants by my definition than there have been gay bars. I mean, when I first set out to write this, I thought I'm going to write the book that talks about every gay restaurant, and that was ridiculous. That would have been 800 pages, and it would have been just a list of restaurants. There have been way more restaurants than there have been
But
gay
West Bank
bars.
Cafe, that is a gay
Yeah,
restaurant.
for sure, because there's
Tip
a
to tail.
cabaret. Yeah,
Yes.
like last time I was there, it was mostly gay men, I would have to say, having that delicious butterscotch pudding.
I
Oh.
have my power lesbian brunch there. We had it there.
Is that
one
right?
time. Yes, I have a
Love
group
it.
I have a gaggle of theater girlies. My
Amazing.
theater girl, and we get a lot of shit done. And we typically have a gay man take the meeting notes. I
love
limit
that.
it to
That's
4
great.
people, and we have my friend Dana's best friend take the meeting notes, and then we share them.
That's incredible. Oh my God.
Of all the topics I discussed.
Well, here's the thing, you know, that restaurant is in Hell's Kitchen. So Hell's Kitchen is a gay neighborhood. And so, you know, when you go to Palm Springs or when you go to Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale, every restaurant's like a gay restaurant, basically, because of where it is. And I wouldn't say
that's
every
like
restaurant-
saying Provincetown. Of course,
Totally.
every restaurant's a gay restaurant.
Totally. And not every restaurant in Hell's Kitchen, I would say, is a gay restaurant, but I'd say most of them are pretty gay.
Okay, let's get out of New York for a second. I want to talk about the history of drag brunch.
Yeah.
Now, I love that you actually go back in time and you found the original essay where the word brunch may have been used for the very first time in print. Was that the 30s?
I think it was actually before then, and then I think that idea caught on and eventually became a little more
1936.
1936. Okay.
Yeah, at the Torch Club in Ohio.
Oh, the Torch Club. Yeah. Well, I think the term was actually coined before then, but
Okay.
one of the gay brunches that I sort of, again, did they have pride flags? No. But it was a place that served food that had, back then, what were called female impersonators. And so when you have what's basically drag plus food, to me, that is a kind of a drag restaurant or drag brunch if they serve food in the morning. And so this idea that drag brunch started, you know, in the 90s or whatever is just false. Like, food and drag have been together for a very long time. I do make the case, though, that I think like gay brunch started to really become a thing during the AIDS years when benefits were held. And, you know, straight people wouldn't go to a gay nightclub or a gay bar at night to support an AIDS cause, but they would go to a brunch during the day hosted by a drag queen. And that is sort of the early start of what I sort of say is actual gay brunch with drag. Is sort of, unfortunately, the AIDS years are the years that sort of said, hey, this is going to be a thing, and it has continued since.
Well, I also love how you talk about the rise of the gay restaurant coinciding with the AIDS epidemic around ACT UP, and how people would go to, what was the restaurant around the corner from the 13th Street Gay and Lesbian Center?
Yeah, there were two that ACT UPers usually go to. Well, the main one was Woody's.
Yes.
And then Benny's Burritos, both of which are now closed. But Woody's was kind of the place where ACT UPers would go after the Monday night meetings, which, you know, were long and tiring and exciting, and there was anger and there was sadness and there was rage and all that. And for many of the ACT UP diehards, they just had to keep the meeting going. And so on a Monday night at Woody's, no one was really there. They took over a restaurant space and sort of continued the meeting until the restaurant closed. And that was a very important place where a lot of ACT UP's really sort of nitty gritty work got done. At Benny's Burritos was the same. Life Cafe in the East Village for
Yes.
the East Village ACT UPers was also one of those places that just like, we're going to work here. We have, our friends are dying. We have stuff to do. We're going to do it at this restaurant after the meeting.
Life Cafe was dramatized in Rent, most famously.
Yep.
You have a chapter in the book that's about lesbian restaurants and
Yes.
lesbian like bookstores. Talk to me about those and where those are located.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all over the country. Two that stand out are Bloodroot, which is a meat-free restaurant in Bridgeport, Connecticut, that opened in 1977 and still feels like 1977. I mean, 1977, the cats were named Gloria Steinem and Bella Abzug. There's a loom. They have books about like women union workers. It's just this wonderful sort of throwback to sort of the real heyday of feminism with roots in the 60s all the way through the 70s. And it's run by these two wonderful women, Noelle and Selma. And Selma actually passed away in February, but like that, her spirit is very much still there. It's delicious vegan food in a space that welcomes everybody, but it's just a reminder of just what a heyday lesbian restaurants had in the 70s, and it's still carrying through.
Also, if we can talk about how the main difference between female-driven gay restaurants versus male, one are, you know, the undercurrent is sex, whereas with female, the undercurrent is politics.
Yeah. And generally, from my experience, gay men's restaurants are much more about who's cute, you know, the sort of flirtation and being social, whereas at feminist restaurants, it was about, we have work to do.
No, I love how you say it was to get away from the guys
And their bullshit.
To get away from the guys' bullshit.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Cowgirl Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Mexican restaurant on Hudson Street.
Yeah.
Why does this feel like a lesbian restaurant? Is it lesbian owned? What is the story there?
I actually don't know much about the story of Cowgirl. Maybe you know more than I do. I mean, it feels to me like it's a lesbian restaurant, but not all the time. Actually, maybe let me ask you that question. What do you think?
I don't know if it's the proximity to Henrietta Hudson, which is right across the street.
Yeah.
And also the fact that Cubbyhole used to be in that spot prior. That's the original spot. That's the original Cubbyhole location, which is where Henrietta's is now. The cast of Orange is the New Black used to do like cast brunches there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Recognized as a popular spot within the lesbian community. Yes, this is a lesbian restaurant. Oh my God. Known for its rustic Desert Hearts themed decor. Established in 1989. I want to go back to this spot in Ohio, the Torch Club.
Yeah.
You do a lot of research around menu design and the way different foods are written and ads for different places. And you notice in one ad for the Torch Club in 1936, it read, before Beyonce and every other drag queen boasts, I quote, I slay. The ad in 1936 reads, they will positively slay you. In 1936.
I love that so much. There's so many things that I think we sort of assume are new, or RuPaul's Drag Race started it, or TikTok started it, and that's a great example of like the word "slay" has been part of the sort of gay lingo.
Well, everything
for a
from
long time.
Everything from Drag Race is just co-opted from the past, and then they just put it on a national stage, which is great.
I love Drag Race. Yeah, they did it very successfully, but let's be clear, words like slay, concepts like drag and dining.
Swish, swish.
Swish, swish. Yes, exactly. Which was also in one of the ads for the Torch Club. Long. Gays have been doing that for a very, very, very long time.
I love when you say this. One of your earliest exposure to gay brunch was from an advice book from 1994. You came across something called the Unofficial Gay Manual, and you devoured this. First of all, where did you get this book? And it basically was a list of like all cultural references that a gay man needs to survive in this world.
Yeah.
And it was in the back that there was the guide to listing all the restaurants. But this is like 16 CDs that every gay man must know, every movie you must watch, All About Eve to, through, etc. How did you find this book, The Unofficial Gay Manual? And is it still, could we still find this on eBay?
You probably could find it on eBay. I still had my copy from the 90s when I probably got it at the old Lambda Rising bookstore in DuPont Circle when I lived in Washington, D.C. It was a very, very popular book. To be clear, it was a very white gay guy kind of book. I think we'd look at it today and say, that's for a very specific demographic. But this was pre-internet. This was back when the way that you learned about what other gay people, where they were eating, what they were dressing, what are the 16 CDs I should have, what is Funny Girl, what sort of we had the shared sort of concept of what gay culture was, like that or not. It was a very, very popular book, and I love that in the back they would list all the gay restaurants to go if you were traveling to LA, or Cleveland was in there, all kinds of other cities, and it was just eye-opening to me to think, oh, well, these are the CDs that I should have. This is how I become a well-rounded cultural gay man, is to own these CDs, watch these movies, dress this way, and go to these gay restaurants. I was like, I am set. I think
what is Funny Girl? What is this? Would it just list the movies and list the CDs, or would it have actual information?
Oh, it would have information about, Barbara Streisand.
Who is Barbara Streisand?
All that kind of stuff. And for me, I didn't necessarily grow up on this stuff. So this is kind of how I learned that through this book. It's a wonderful book. If you can find a copy of it, it's just a snapshot of really basically the 90s and, sort of what it was like to be gay. And come of age in that decade before the internet just changed everything. It's a lovely book.
I'll tell you something personal. There's a very close person in my life who is my unofficial quote gay guide. I will admit, before this summer, I had never seen Funny Girl, and I was sat down and screened a copy of Funny Girl
As one should.
And so that was my unofficial
I love it.
gay guy. Who
Did you like it?
I loved it.
I loved it.
I have some notes,
That's fair.
which is typically everything is about an hour too long.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Oh, you say Ariba is the gayest restaurant in New York City presently?
I think presently I would make the argument that on a Monday night at Ariba when Broadway is dark and all the course boys
On a Monday night.
On a Monday night is one of the gayest restaurants in New York City and other nights too, but Monday night especially because it's mostly gay men. I'm not saying that women don't go there. They certainly do, but it just tends to be like when I walk by there almost more than any other restaurant, it is pretty gay. It's also what I call a legacy gay restaurant, which is it's still open. It opened in 1984. The owner's her younger brother died of AIDS not long after it opened, and to think that there is a restaurant that has been gay since day one. In the early 80s, that is still open right now. That's another reason why I say it's kind of this. Again, this concept of legacy gay restaurants, long-running restaurants that have been serving the gay community. I would love to write more about Ariba because I think it's kind of a treasure in some ways. I don't know if I love the food so much, but the vibe is just so much fun.
If I could take a time machine and go anywhere in this book, it would actually be to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and visit Napoli's, maybe in the 1950s or 60s. This was one of the first restaurants where trans people could gather, maybe not even necessarily trans, but cross-dressers, perhaps people who their wives or their husbands didn't know that they were leading this other life, and they would meet in the 50s and the 60s. Talk to me about the history of Napoli's in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah, so actually the great thing about Napoli's, which it's still open, so you can actually go there right now, and I highly encourage, if you only go to one restaurant in my book that's currently open right now, I would say Napoli's is at the top of
This is the one that really drew me in.
Yeah. It's carrying on a tradition that started at least in the 50s of places that were welcoming to what today we would call the trans community. Back then, you might use terms like transvestite or to right now in Napoli's once a month, this incredible woman named Martha Marvel runs this trans meetup for people from all around the area, Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota. And they drive there for hours and are their full trans selves with white cheese curds and beer, and it's just the most Wisconsin thing you could possibly imagine. But they are living their true selves, sometimes by themselves because their family doesn't know this, or in some cases I met trans women who were there with their wives who were very supportive. But just for this one night, you can come together in this space, in this small little bar in Green Bay, and just be your true self. And then go back to Sheboygan or wherever you're from. I actually think what Martha's doing is kind of God's work in some ways, to be able to open the doors and say, you are welcome here, no matter where you are on your trans journey. And I'm not a trans person, but just being there and experiencing it with that community, just still, when I talk about it, I tend to get very emotional because it's just like no other restaurant in the country.
And I love the anecdote in the book how there are some people who would be driving there and not have the courage to go in, or they'd be sitting in the parking lot afraid to get out of the car for fear that they would be recognized, or on the phone with Martha. Talk to me about that, the stories that she told you about interfacing with some of the customers.
Yeah, those stories are more recent, like just very affecting story of a trans woman who drove, I don't know how many miles to come to Naps, and was in their car at the front door, terrified to just go 5 steps into the door, because that means that now this is real. I'm here. I'm going to be myself in front of strangers, something I've never done before. And she said, take your time. And if you decide to turn around and not come back next time, and I'll be here. Martha is just someone who's very patient with people and understanding. She's been a trans woman for a very long time and just understands that those 5 steps for some people can be extremely difficult.
How old is Martha?
When I met her, I think she was in her late 70s, so she may be in her early 80s by now. And she was a bigwig in the Catholic Church, just did like really amazing stuff, met Pope Francis. I mean, just like this incredible career in the Catholic Church.
When you went in, what were some of your observations? Like, how full was the restaurant?
It was packed. It was so full. And I remember thinking, like, I never quite been in that kind of a space like this before. Everything you can think of, I met there, and it was so eye-opening. I met school teachers and a police officer, and I people who just shared with me their journey to sort of discovering who they were as trans people. And these are people from all over the country. There was a trans woman there from, I think it was Tennessee, who said, if I were to do this back at the gun shop where I work back home, it wouldn't go well for me. But the fact that I flew here to Green Bay for the first time, put on a dress in front of other people, it just meant so much to her. And just to think that, okay, well, now I go back to my Tennessee gun shop and not be that person, just very much was a very affecting story.
You say if you could travel back in time, the restaurant you would go to is 1980s Atlanta, the restaurant Gallus.
Yes.
Tell me, and you liken it to a department store.
It's so fascinating. There's never been a place like Gallus. It was basically a very tall restaurant space where on one floor there was sort of a fine dining restaurant. There were white tablecloths. There were flowers. You could get a prime rib, very sort of, that kind of dining. And then there was a space with a piano where you could have an after dinner drink and sing show tunes with your friends. And then in the basement were the hustlers and the lesbian security that sort of like watched out if anyone caused any problems. And so this idea that you could sort of have a one-stop shop for gay men of a certain age and temperament, you could do that all in one building, is fascinating to me. A delicious dinner, sing some show tunes, and then have an assignation with a hustler, to me is just fascinating. I wish I could experience that. I mean, RuPaul went there, Lady Bunny, all the drag queens from the Atlanta scene back then all loved going to Gallus, or at least sort of understood that was the place for a certain kind of gay man to go.
Okay, let's end here. Annie's in DC.
Annie's Paramount Steakhouse is actually my first full chapter in the book, because to me it is the gay restaurant. It is the legacy gay restaurant. You are not going to find a gayer capital G restaurant in this country than Annie's Paramount Steakhouse in DuPont Circle. I went to Annie's many times. I lived in DuPont Circle, and for me, Annie's was always the place that we would go at 3 a.m. after Tracks. The nightclub closed, and we just wanted to have pancakes and flirt, and that's when I went to Annie's. But what's interesting about Annie's is it kind of folds in every element of a gay restaurant. It opened in 1948, started to become attract gays in the late 50s, early 60s, when the Lavender Scare was hitting Washington, D.C., all because of Annie herself. Annie Katinas worked there. She was this mama bear woman who loved and protected her gay boys. She sort of famously said that to one couple who were holding hands under the table, no. Here, you can hold your hands over the table. And since then, Annie's has it served DC gays through the AIDS crisis. It has sort of adapted itself to the digital age. It just recently started having drag brunch. I mean, when you walk into Annie's, you are hit in the face with gayness. And what's so funny is that there are no gay people in the Katinas family. As far as Georgia, the manager, told me, they're all straight. They're this Greek immigrant family that just said, you know what? We love the gays. We're in DuPont Circle. Let's celebrate them. And I would say if there's one restaurant to go to other than Napoli's in Green Bay, Wisconsin, it's to get the Annie's experience. It's like no other.
I love that. How long were you traveling for the research?
Yeah, total, I researched and wrote this book over 4 years. I say travel was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. There are places I just did not get to. Like, I didn't get to Texas. I would love to go to Texas to write about gay restaurants there, but I tried to go to big cities, small towns, back home to Ohio. I wanted to see the breadth of gay restaurants, but I would say it was about a year and a half of traveling and eating and doing research at archives and trying to find menus and trying to find people who were at these restaurants.
What was the most interesting piece of archive you found, either in like menu design or an advertisement that you saw?
I am obsessed with the cover of a menu for a 24-hour diner in West Hollywood in the 80s called the Yukon Mining Company. This was they had several covers shot by the photographer J. Clinton West. And these are like porn stars. Like these were guys in like their shirts were off, or they had overalls that were sort of, around their waist. They had like a pickaxe. I think one was had a construction worker hat. It was all just gay porn fantasy. But the idea that was your menu cover, that's what drew you into this gay restaurant where these porn stars, I was like, oh, right. Gay restaurants have changed a lot since those days. I don't think you would see that anymore. And I would love, again, all these time machines I want to take. I'd go back to Yukon Mining Company and just like have pancakes there at 2 a.m. would be, I think, thrilling, I think.
Did you think about going to New Orleans at all?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's one city that I just didn't get to, but like
that's another place where I'm like, everything here is gay.
Everything is gay.
Like you would do the whole. It'd be like so all encompassing that there would be no like delineation.
Just like Palm Springs and Fort Lauderdale, everything in this city is gay. I would love to do that.
Tell me where people can find you. Are you doing any more book events? I know you did one at Julius's. And what are you interested in, do you think, for your next, whether it be like an article or a next big project? Yeah,
sure. So erikpiepenburg.com is my website. You can get all the information about where to find the book there. It's in local bookstores. I have a couple of events coming up. I will be going to Atlanta on September 4th, and then I'm planning to go to Ohio for a talk, and hopefully go back to Wisconsin, and fingers crossed get to Napoli and see Martha and the trans community there. My next obsession is a woman named Dirty Helen, who she was a waitress at a gay restaurant / laundromat in Milwaukee. Who had a potty mouth and loved her gay boys. I'm obsessed with finding out more about who Dirty Helen was. You can just see in her, you can see that in your mind. It conjures up that, that kind of like no nonsense woman who just like loved her gay boys, have a heavy eyeliner, and like, you don't want to mess with Dirty Helen.
Is she still alive?
No, she's not. But I want to find people who knew her because that's very much a type, the sort of like straight woman who, Mama Bear, you don't want to mess with her gay boys, just like Annie Katinas did at Annie's.
It reminds me of the character Debbie on Queer as Folk.
On Queer as Folk, absolutely. Both that is exact. That's that P flag type of woman. I want to know more about that. That might be my next gay restaurant endeavor. Although Elephant and Castle here in New York City just closed last week. It just closed recently, and I was shocked because I ate there, and then like 2 days later, they said they're closing. I actually don't know why. I don't know what the circumstances are, but talk about a legacy gay restaurant. Elephant Castle has been, when I ate there, it was all gay men for the most part. Mm-hmm. And that's a legacy gay restaurant that's gone, and I'm sad to see that. Maybe I'll dig into that a little bit more.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank
so
you.
fun.
This was so much fun. I'm so glad.
I really want to dig into what else was going on in those baths. Movie theater, Bette Midler, full Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner, Easter brunch.
That might be my next book is like the history of American bathhouses.
I had no idea you could sleep there.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really cheap place to just crash if you need a place to crash.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Erik Piepenburg. I think we said it all.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
You.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with AutoQuote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Stop settling for weak sound. It's time to level up your game and bring the boom. Hit the town with the ultra-durable LG X Boom portable speaker and enjoy vibrant sound wherever you go. Elevate your listening experience to new heights because, let's be real, your music deserves it. The future of sound is now with LG X Boom. And for a limited time, save 25% at LG.com with code FALL25. Bring the boom. X Boom.
En Hill's Pet Nutrition sabemos que la culpa es real. Dejarlos solos demasiado tiempo, jugar tan poco con ellos, despertarlos cuando se ven tan cómodos, quedarse sin paciencia, quedarse sin premios, aspirando todo el tiempo. No puedes hacer todo. Por eso existe Hill's, nutrición científicamente probada para darles más amor del humanamente posible. Como humanos tenemos límites, por eso existe Hill's. Encuentra el alimento adecuado en hillspet.com/la ciencia lo hace por ti.